Hi everyone, this is She's Gotta Watch It, a weekly podcast where we bring you our thoughts on today's TV shows. Today we're going to be discussing She-Ra. And before I forget, my name is Maya.
I'm Raven.
And we hope you enjoy this episode.
For the honor of Grayskull!
You always on point. That was great.
Did you like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, that's She-Ra's catchphrase. I think it's also
Grayskull!
technically... or, yeah, there's different intonations depending on the episode. Like the one where She-Ra tried to be fancy. That was a good one. Yeah, so She-Ra is, it's come back to us in the 2010s via Netflix, headed by Noelle Stevenson, who I love. So I'm going to throw that out there real quick. Shout out Noelle Stevenson, wherever you at.
Why do you love her?
Because she is also one of the creators of Lumberjanes, which is a really great graphic novel comic series about young women who are off in the forest being essentially Girl Scouts, except things are a little weird at their camp. So they have to fight some magical things and creatures in the forest. They befriend some magical creatures. And also, they're not your typical Girl Scouts. So there's no emphasis on them, being girly in any sense. With that said, Girl Scouts of America is actually pretty, inclusive of a lot of different types of, folks, women and otherwise, which is pretty cool. But this really focuses on a more eclectic group of Girl Scouts than you probably ever see in real life. And they're also little baby queers. They're baby gay Girl Scouts. And, some folks are trans, and some folks have raccoons as pets, and some folks come from Spanish-speaking families and stuff. So it's a very cute series. It's not perfect. I'm going to put that out there, too, for someone who comes at me for it, certain aspects of it. I'm not saying I think it's, the best comic in the world, but I'm saying it's a very, very important comic right now in our sphere of media and representation, and something I would have loved to see as a kid, so I wouldn't have felt weird about being gay. So thank you, Noelle Stevenson and the team of Lumberjanes. And with that said, they're bringing a lot of that same flair to the new She-Ra.
True.
So, let's see. She-Ra started back in the 80s, though.
1985.
Yeah, it was a spin-off from He-Man. They got real creative with these names, y'all.
I know.
But it was actually on purpose. So we did a little research because I was trying to figure out how did She-Ra end up spinning off of He-Man, right? And it was straight up just Mattel trying to find a way to reach a girl audience after building this boy fanship over He-Man. He's basically it's your brother and your sister should be able to play with toys in the same universe, but these are the girl ones and those are the boy ones, and we could double the money now. Because He-Man really started when Mattel was trying to find a new line of toys after turning down the opportunity to make toys for Star Wars. I don't know if that was a smart move or not, but apparently the licensing costs were real high, and they weren't trying to pay that. So they were let's just make some generic ass toys people are gonna love anyway. And so He-Man was born. That's why his name is He-Man, because they were what's the most generic name we could come up with that we can just put in any universe, and people will be cool, that sounds great.
He is a man.
Dun dun dun. And so He-Man toys evolved into He-Man the cartoon and the comics, where his backstory changed a little bit, and he went from being just an average dude from some tribe to being a prince, which is also why I think this incarnation of She-Ra works really well too, is because it also takes things to a different evolution from the He-Man and the She-Ra series, where again She-Ra's backstory changes slightly, but not in a way that's unbelievable or takes away from the rest of the universe. Because She-Ra was He-Man's sister, twin sister, who suddenly showed up in the cartoon and got her own spin-off because girls, and wanting to market to girls. And so if you look at both series, you see a lot of like in the 80s, you see a lot of parallels where like it's basically the same characters but turned into the girl world version, which is fine. You know, they just needed an easy way to make some money apparently, so that's what they did, and it led to greater representation and a lady warrior who people came to know and love, and now she's back. In the 80s, she was more of like an adult though. So like the characters were like clearly grown-ups. Now they're teenagers and preteens, trying to, you know, rescue the world. It's kind of like they went somewhere between 80s She-Ra and like Steven Universe, and we're like Netflix She-Ra with a sprinkle of Nimona, which is another Noelle Stevenson comic, and maybe even
Avatar: The Last
some
Airbender.
Lumberjanes and some Avatar: Last Airbender. Their eyes do this glowy thing, like in one of the recent episodes. So right now, yeah, we're in season 4. We just finished watching it. So y'all need to catch up. These are only like 7 to 13 episode seasons. They're not even like, seriously, one season is just like 7 episodes. You finish it and you're like, wow, that was like 2.5 hours and I'm done. So you might as well watch it. But sorry, I've been talking a lot because I really like She-Ra.
I mean, it's
I
fun.
got really excited when I knew the new season dropped this
To be
week.
honest, it's a show that you are really into and passionate about, and it's a show that sometimes I am on my phone during, and that's just what happens. But I do think that it is a really cool and interesting show. I try to refrain from calling cartoons kid shows now because I think that there's so many cartoons that have a broad adult crossover that really what I like to think about them as just animations, I guess, and to think about them in ways that it's sort of like what is the message of the show and if it's doing that well, you know? And I think one of the things that struck me about She-Ra, and particularly this season, is the concentration on relationships and how do you build them, friendships, trauma, like trying to understand who you are, like identity wise. And they just pack so much into a season that even though sometimes it feels like the storyline lags, because honestly, there's moments where I'm like, y'all should get this right now. That the reason why y'all ain't winning is because y'all friendship isn't working. Fix that. Um, they do it in a way where I think they're trying to hit sort of like all the nuances of what it means to negotiate a relationship with somebody else. You know, like what does it mean to be in friendship? What does it mean to be in all these interesting relationships? You're like, are they in a relationship? Are they not? I don't really know. And so I like it for that reason. So I think you can be excited. I don't think you should damp down your excitement. And if you happen to talk more than me, who cares?
Okay, cool. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I mean, no, it's actually, I think it's why we want to talk about it, is because this season turned into being something, I think, a little different than what we've seen in past seasons. And it's largely because it's made it this far and it's still going, right? And so I think they hit a point where it's like, we now know we need to stretch out the storyline. That's what it feels like. Like, it feels like there were definitely like set arcs that were already prepared. That I feel like if I were to go and ask the folks working on the show, do you know how it's going to end? A lot of them will probably say yes. I feel like there's already a sense of like, this is going to have a point where like this big thing happens and that's the finale. And I think that I get that intentionality feel from this show. But I also feel like because, you know, you never know how things are going to go with Netflix, right? Netflix love to just drop shows that people love. You also have to kind of like hold back a little bit and be prepared to just do that ending at any point.
Hashtag shade.
Hashtag shade. Hashtag shade at Netflix.
One day at a time, come back, my beating heart.
Yeah, I miss that show. So because of that, like, I think there was a point where you're like, oh, I can see this ending coming, you know, kind of soon. Like when we got to like season like 3 and it ended short because it was a short season, you're like, oh, they're just gonna have to like come back and end this now because clearly they didn't get a big order for season 3, and like maybe that means this isn't really gonna go anywhere. It's just gonna be like, okay, we're gonna finish it and wrap it up and be done. But they're like, nah, we actually gave them a full season this time, so they could do more with the story, which means we're gonna take things further. And that means that some aspects of the plot really got slowed down, and some aspects of the characters and their growth suddenly went from being like exponential curve to just, you know, a nice little slow linear curve. Maybe more logarithmic kind of thing, if y'all know this, that like that curve that flattens out at some point. So maybe that's what we are. We're at the top of a logarithmic curve. We're now starting to flatten out and plateau.
I feel like you need a
Um,
pointer and a chalkboard because I think I had you at logarithmic. No, I think I had you at exponential and then linear, and then I was like, logarithmic? Is that same as exponential? Yes?
no.
No. See, math, no.
Google. Google it. Google it,
No,
y'all.
don't. Oh, I thought my phone was gonna be like, yes, Maya. Because
Oh,
you're
because you
like,
got one of those
Google,
Google phones.
Google. Oh, yeah. But no, I don't, not anymore.
Oh, true, because you switched the.
I did.
You did. She's all about that Galaxy life now,
Yes.
y'all. Hashtag Samsung Galaxy.
Wow. Okay.
Give
So,
us money. We'll promote your products.
wow.
No, we
Okay,
won't.
no, we won't.
But just
But
give us money.
okay, don't. Anyway, so I think what's really interesting about what you said is I thought of the pacing, now that you're talking about it, and I'm trying to reflect on the past season as something that set up broader arcs for continuing, like for season 5.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I've really been trying to be like, why did that feel so slow? Like, why are they concentrating so much on like
Bo and
Glimmer?
Adora and
Yeah,
Glimmer.
Bo and the door and a Glimmer. But I think part of it has to do with the fact that growing up is not necessarily a fast process. It's also this slow, sort of painful and experimental.
Puberty sucks,
Yeah.
y'all.
Yeah, I guess I could have just said that puberty sucks process, and maybe that's also what they're trying to tap into a little bit with the slowness of it, because there's moments when we were watching it and you and I both were like, don't y'all get it yet? But I think sometimes it's easy to forget what it felt like to be a teenager and trying to express your emotions and how you feel, but also at the same time want to be heard and want your opinions to be validated, and trying to figure out what is that middle ground between I have an idea, you have an idea, let's try to put these two ideas together and actually get something done. And I feel like that's the type of like conversation and negotiating, which is why Bo's character is so interesting, because he's supposed to be so that middle voice, but at some point he just gets fed up. He's like,
And
I
you
can't.
can't blame
You
him.
can't. Yeah, he's like, I'm just trying to be nice. I'm just trying to make sure that we all get along, go along to get along, get along to go along. I don't know. I think both iterations of that work. But I think at some point he's like, but no one is even paying attention to me either or what my needs are. And this whole friendship is off balance. But you can't blame them because they're teenagers in a high stress situation where every decision that they make can
In the world.
in the world. Yeah, it's the difference between either saving the world and the people that they love or literally killing everybody. And so I think in this sort of slow, methodical move towards, you know, shifting the universe from this, what is
Spondia.
Despondia back into a universe where there's other planets and potentially like other like civilizations to encounter. I think they're trying to figure out what, like, yeah, I guess like what does it mean to grow these characters and give them the sense of awareness that they might need to survive this shift, um now and not later, because I think that also is something that happens sometimes in animation or live action shows where people just think about their relationships way too late, and then writers think about their relationships way
Way
too
too late.
late, and so then you're trying to handle all of this at once, and it makes the show really incoherent versus being like, all right, when season 5 starts, the relationship is still a little rocky, Glimmer is still missing. All right, things that we just have to figure out right now. But at least as an audience, you kind of already understand what you're getting yourself into versus starting a season with all of this stuff all of a sudden in your face. You're like, but they were cool last season. Why is no one cool this season? You know? So you know that everything is going to be sort of a little bit everything is
Balance.
unbalanced, and so how does the world sort of right itself or create a new sense of being and belonging?
And is that not the theme of She-Ra and Eternia? I mean, here
True,
here
yeah.
is She-Ra expected to balance the world, right? To balance Eternia. Of course, we learned this season that the whole idea of She-Ra balancing Eternia is in order to turn Eternia into a functioning weapon against like villains we don't even know yet, right? Like all we know about is the Horde, but it clearly wasn't built to destroy the Horde. It was built to destroy like the first one's other enemies in the previous like solar system, right? So that's interesting, or galaxy, whatever.
Were they enemies, or did the first ones just have this high and mighty stance on just different civilizations in general, and was like,
that's what we're trying to find out, right? Because Mara basically makes it clear that like she didn't agree that this was gonna like bring peace, because she didn't feel like that they were gonna be taking out actual enemies,
everyone's gonna be dead,
but that they're gonna kill, right? That they were killing allies, basically killing people who are innocent and should not be getting hurt.
Right.
I feel like she might have thought differently if she thought the people that they would be killing were like actual like threats to the universe or to Eternia or to the first ones.
But the bomb was gonna destroy Eternia too.
Yeah.
So everything, peace is just nothing, right? At this point, am I not getting that?
I mean, well, that's the question, is that we don't know, because the way that Light Hope keeps phrasing it as the goal was to get rid of the first one's enemies.
True.
Destroy the enemies, bring peace to the universe. But you're like, who are the enemies? And
who are the first ones?
And at what cost does this come at? Which we know now, like Mara made that clear, was Eternia gonna be dead. Like everyone here's gonna die. And then clearly it's gonna harm other planets. But you're also like, how bad were these enemies that you were like, we're gonna just, take a giant planet, steal all that planet's magic, turn that magic into a super cannon that can like destroy worlds and destroy some worlds.
Yeah.
Like, those enemies either have to be really, really bad, or you as a race are already really, really terrible.
True.
So you're trying to figure out like, is this some white people shit? Are they just colonialists, imperialists who are like, burn it all down? Like, we'll come back and scavenge shit later. Like, everyone's enemy, we're actually white supremacists of the universe, right? That could be a thing. Like, or is this just, like really terrible strategic planning of a people who are actually well-meaning, and this is the only way that they can conceive to bring about peace for the majority. So maybe they're more like Thanos, because Thanos was real fucked up, and we all know this. Like, he was like, I'm gonna get rid of half the universe.
Good reference.
But it was with the goal of actually bringing some sense of balance, because he saw the suffering that was happening in the universe and how there weren't enough resources. What's his solution? A good solution? Hell no.
True.
But did you understand where he was coming from? Unfortunately, yes. Right? So, like, maybe the first ones are in that Thanos mindset.
But not endorsing the horse. Yeah, okay.
Right. So, like, that could be a thing, right? And then you've had to figure out where the Horde falls into this. Like, they feel like they're on some Borg shit. Like, they're just going and like...
Oh, another good reference.
They're just going and they're just rolling through the universe, taking over territory because they can, because they think they're superior.
Oh, I didn't even make that connection.
And they're clearly all about tech and technology and integrating that into biosystems. The Borg.
The Borg. Yeah.
Next thing you know, Horde Prime's going to be like, resistance is futile.
I mean, kind of already is like resistance is futile.
Except in the blackest way he possibly could. They gave this man like alien dreadlocks, and he sat there. He was talking to Princess or Queen Glimmer. She's Queen Glimmer now, and was like, basically like, "Thank you, child." He's sitting on his throne with his Southern gentleman bullshit going on.
T.I.
Like he intergalactic evil T.I.
Expeditiously.
True. That's what's gonna be next season. It's gonna be Rhythm and Flow She-Ra edition, talking about some let us expeditiously and amicably bring balance to the world while you become part of my territory, because we could be stronger together. And if you refuse, well, then I guess I'll just have to kill you, because that's what a G does. Like, this is what...
Or check if your hymen's in place, because that's what the G does.
Ooh, okay. Shots fired at T.I. We weren't going to go there
until the other episode.
Until the Rhythm and Flow episode. But
you set it up.
Clearly, we couldn't help it. I guess we were only going to do it in the Rhythm and Flow episode, but now we're doing it in both. That's a better way to put it.
It's fine. It needs to be everywhere. People need to know that that's just ridiculous.
Yes. So Ti is the Horde Prime of Rhythm and Flow. Boom. I don't even know what the fuck that's supposed to mean, but but let's just bring it back into just trying. We're just trying to figure out where this world is now. Is what you're saying, right? Like we really understand how it's out of balance
Yeah.
finally, versus just knowing it somehow is.
Yeah.
So now it's like, what does it
That's a
mean?
good. That's actually a really good way of saying it. It's
Yeah.
like now we know why and kind of how it's out of balance, versus kind of understanding it as imbalance but thrown off because of the horde, but actually it was never really
Because of the Horde
imbalance.
is,
Yeah.
yeah. So that brings a new perspective to what's upcoming and how the season just went. With that said, I want to throw something at you.
Oh no, hopefully I can catch it.
Okay, so I'm gonna say something and I want you to react.
Oh, this is a lot of pressure. Don't say it. Don't say it.
Hey,
Ah!
Adora. uh, you and
Oh.
Katra, me and Katra this season, but I feel like you have some special feelings about Katra.
I don't have any special feelings about Katra. I just think that I don't have any special
You have so
feelings.
much to say about Katra and Shadow Weaver, like,
Do I?
because about how Shadow Weaver is misunderstood, about
Oh,
how Katra
glad.
is just terrible now.
Well, I think it's more about I just don't know. It's just painful. Like it's agonizing to watch Katra continuously push away people who care about her because she's so hurt. Like so many people have hurt her that in a lot of ways all she knows is how to be alone, or all she understands is our relationships are built off of that type of abuse, right? Whether it be like verbal or physical abuse, like that's all she knows. And it doesn't mean she can't unlearn it, but she's never been in a situation, I think, for like a prolonged period of time for her to unlearn it and heal. And so I think that's why Katra's character to me is so interesting and so agonizing to watch. Because in a lot of ways, like I feel I don't dislike her, and I don't think people necessarily dislike her, or I don't think they've written her in a way that you could dislike her. I think they've written her in a way where you just want to
Hugger.
yeah, like you just want to hug her, and you just want to be her friend in this weird way. To just say, pause. Literally pause. It's okay. You have all these people who care about you. That if you step back from what feels comfortable because it's a part of your routine everyday life, that it's scary, but it can also be new, refreshing, and healing. And I think that's why, for me, it's just hard to watch Katra continuously do things that just hurt everyone, including herself. And the whole Scorpio
uh,
storyline is just breaking my damn heart. It's breaking it. But I think I mean, to be honest, I think that's the only thing I really have to say about Katra. And I'm like, I understand why Horde Prime had to come into the picture for the overall story arc. But I'm like, it's gonna take more time for her now to form those relationships that will uplift her instead of pushing her forward by knocking her down. And I think that's the thing that just makes me so frustrated. But again, I understand it. And maybe a lot of it has to do, again, with that sort of like low, slow march towards self discovery and healing. And like Adora is doing it in the same way, but she's doing it with a completely different cast of characters that's
yeah.
allowing her to fall, but like picking her back up, and she was allowed to make that connection because even though she was part of what was the zone called? It's not called
Fright Zone.
Fright Zone. I was gonna call
Yeah.
it the Dark Zone. It's all the same thing. Don't worry about the names, Maya. I don't even know why I said
I
that
don't
way.
know why
My
you said that
bad.
way either.
But even though they both grew up in the Fright Zone, it was very different because Adora was literally adored,
Yep.
right? And so when you have people loving on you, I think it's easier to figure out how to move away when you realize that love isn't actually serving you and go someplace else where people love on you in ways that serve you. But like no one's ever loved on Catra.
Except for Scorpia.
Except for Scorpio, but it's too late. And even in some ways, Adora when they were younger was like, hey, we're buddies, we protect each other. But they were young, and Catra's like, I see you, I hear you, but also all of these older authority figures aren't helping out either.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's gonna be on the track. It's fine.
Yeah, it is very hard to watch, and I think what is fascinating is that you do get to see sort of example of what Catra could be in Lonnie, Kyle, and Rogelio, because Lonnie was trying to be equally as hard throughout like the bulk of the series so far. Lonnie has been like, yeah, whatever, like life sucks and you get hurt and we just soldiers and we just gonna soldier on and fuck you, Kyle. Everyone just shits on poor Kyle. And Rogelio, I don't know
They're
what the fuck
like,
you
did
saying.
you lose at a
but
game that you created, Kyle?
Yeah. No, I didn't. I actually just won the whole thing.
It's like, great whatever, scene. Kyle. Shut up, Kyle.
Yeah. But that's the thing. So that same episode when they play that game and they're trapped in the acid snow, like it's also when Lonnie was like, "This is bullshit." Like Lonnie's like, "I've been trying real hard to just let being bad be enough, to do the things I'm supposed to do, to be liked by Catra and liked by the Horde, and to say I'm being successful because we're taking out all these rebellion outposts." And then she's watching her homie Kyle go out in the snow, about to die, and is like, this shit ain't worth it. This shit is not worth dying over. Like, we might not be like the best, example of friendship, but I understand that we have had each other's back throughout this whole thing. Like, we've been fighting alongside each other. We've been fighting together. Like, I don't even give a damn what the cause is for. Just the fact that we have this bond and we grew up with each other should be meaningful. I shouldn't just be watching someone die just so they can die. Like, just so they can be out the way. Because it just shows how, like, disposable we apparently all are to the Horde. So I need to value myself. I need to value this other person in my life. Kyle, you the homie. I'm gonna come save you. Rogelio gonna help us out. Like, they had that moment of like growth that was already planted. Like, you saw in previous scenes and episodes where they showed up, that like they clearly were more open to friendship as a concept overall. But I think Lonnie was a good example in particular, though, because she was the one trying the fucking hardest to be like, whatever, like, I don't care. Angsty teen. Like, she didn't like Catra because Catra was never quite as loyal, but at the same time, she still was willing to keep serving Catra because she's like, well, but this is what we're supposed to do anyway, because this is just what life is, even if I think it's bullshit. And Catra's sitting here being like, it's bullshit, and I hate it, and why gotta be this way, and I'm just gonna dive deeper in it.
Yeah, and as you said that, I realized that part of the reason why Lonnie, Rogelio, and Kyle. It's apt that I forgot Kyle's name.
Which is funny that his name is Kyle because Bo in the original He-Man's actual name was Kyle. So they found a way to incorporate that somewhere. Just, that's a thing.
Good reference. Okay. Anyway, so what you said was actually really interesting because it made me think about how it might be easier for them because they are just rank and file soldiers. So what they do in the long run may or may not help their status. And so they don't really have they haven't made meaningful connections to the cause, right? But Catra's meaningful connection to the cause is that if I complete this task of conquering this world, maybe someone will finally see me and respect me, right? And my whole entire life, visibility and respect has been attached to this cause, and I don't feel like anyone has ever seen me, and I don't feel like anyone's ever respected me, and I want to get out of this, but if I do, what happens to the little bit of visibility and respect that I've collected over the past couple years by rising through the ranks. Without my rank, who am I? Right? And I think that's why when Scorpio leaves, she has this moment where she's like, I literally have nobody. Like, she doesn't even have those moments where she can kind of step out of it for a little bit and just look to her left or her right and say, yo, this is hard. And I
No.
really hate it. And can we just have fun and pretend like this isn't as stressful as it is? But because she pushes Scorpio away, because she banishes Entrapta, she literally has no one. She doesn't even have Emily.
No.
So I think that um, there's something there about how Katra is also attaching meaning to status, to, yeah, care, like how people care about her. Um, and I don't think she can really see a path outward versus Lonnie and the gang. Lonnie and the gang can see it because they have each other.
Well, I was gonna say it's kind of it's weird to be like it kind of like reminds you of how villain groups in like fantasy and sci-fi work very closely to like or parallel to how like gangs in real life work, like in that idea of like this is my only way to prove myself
It's
and
not
like
even really just gangs, it's just groups.
true.
Like groups in real life, that's how a group works.
True,
Like,
the politicians be the same fucking way.
yeah, even with your friend group, like there's a reason why you can think, I mean, everyone listening right now could probably think of their one, two, three closest friends or more, and realize that you have closest friends and then you have people on the periphery,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, like, if y'all ever had to make an exodus because the group just wasn't working, you could say that's fine because I still have Claudia and, I don't know, Freddie. I don't know why I made it up two people. Maybe because I don't want to put my friends out here because they haven't consented. So that was the thing. But same thing. Point still
Yeah.
holds, right? Like in all groups, I think there's a sense of we're a group for a reason and we've decided to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And if I gotta sit at the lunch table, I'm looking for my people. I got my people. And when I leave, my people gonna leave with me. But Catcher don't have people.
And I think you brought a good point too about how Scorpio doesn't have people
Mm-hmm.
because Catra became her people, and so did
Mm-hmm.
Entrapta.
I didn't bring up that point. You just brought up that
I
point.
did okay, but I think that's why on some levels this season is a little heartbreaking because
Mm-hmm.
all friendships on all sides are falling apart.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, you thought that Catra might be on that path to healing because she has Scorpio. And
Mm.
now she doesn't have Scorpio because Scorpio finally realized that Catra is terrible. She literally is like, I just realized that I thought I was being a bad friend, but Catra was the one
Was
being
a
the
bad
bad friend.
friend.
Like, that's a big
Oh,
deal
that
to
moment!
realize.
I remember when that moment came out. We were we were like, that's the realest thing I've ever seen on TV.
Yes. Also, shout out to Lauren Ash, voice actress
Mm.
for Scorpia. One, because we love you in Superstore. So it was a little weird hearing Dina's voice in a children's show, or at least what's supposed to be a children's show, whatever. Um, but but like you really brought this character of Scorpia to life. She's like MVP of this season, um,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really real. Like it was really
Because
real.
it's really all about family, friends, and connection. Like even at
Yeah.
to the last episode, thinking about the way that Scorpia had to connect to the Garnet.
Yes, Scorpio connecting to the Black Garnet was, I mean, you knew it was going to happen at some point, but like the way it came about and how it had to happen when she was kind of like basically at her lowest. Like she hit a point where she's like, I don't have anyone, I don't have family, I don't have friends. I'm trying to get these things back, right? Like I want to
Mm.
save Entrapta, so I'm going to Bright Moon. I'm, demanding an audience so someone can go save Entrapta. Like I've given up on Catra, like, but I also understand that if we save the world, that means Catra still has another chance, right? Like she's
Mm.
like, I've given up on being the one to like, try to push Catra forward, but I don't want her to necessarily just to die and be obliterated by all this chaos,
Mm.
right? So I'm gonna do the one thing I've been scared my whole life of doing, which is take back this power. Like
Mm.
she's literally taking back her power.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you get this through like Glimmer, because Glimmer says it outright. She's like, I want to tap into the heart of Eternia, because I want to. Is it Eternia or Etheria? Why am I saying
I think it's Etheria.
it's
You're saying
Etheria?
Eternia because Eternia is the password to open a lot of the ruins, which is why we're saying Eternia, but it's Etheria.
Yeah, I think it's probably Etheria.
It is.
It is the heart of Etheria.
It's Heart of Etheria. But
Okay.
Eternia is still a part of the universe. It's just a
Yes.
password.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, heart of Etheria. She knows she needs to take back the power because like that magic does belong to the people of Etheria. Um, and for Scorpia, it's taking back. It's like my mom would call it breaking generational curses,
Hmm.
right? Like her family, basically has this curse upon them that led to their own destruction because they decided to go down the wrong path, and she herself got caught up in that, being part of the horde and living in the fright zone. But she realized things can be different, and it's scary to try something different. But she's like, I'm gonna do it because this is for me,
Mm.
like, but it's also for the people around me who I care about, even if they don't understand that,
Mm.
right? Because let's be real, Entrapta don't understand this shit either.
Yeah,
Like,
no, she
Entrapta
doesn't.
was like, I am so happy being on this island of garbage.
I'll just
Live here forever.
let it consume
Me.
me.
And you feel bad too because she also is hurt. Like, she's
Mm-hmm.
so confused and she's so hurt,
But she's trying.
but she's trying. Um, that scene where Bo tries to talk to her about friendship.
Yeah. And the door is like, we got a ship. You want to see the shiny new ship?
And she was like, yep. And then Bo's like, so are you coming with us because we're your friends or because you want to see the ship? And she's like, the ship. Definitely because I want to see the ship. So,
But then she turns around and she says, but thank you. Thank you
yeah.
for what you said because it validated that, again, someone appreciated my presence. And I
Mm-hmm.
really thought that y'all had forgotten me and that no one
Yeah.
was coming. Because Katra manipulated me in thinking that
Mm-hmm.
no one was coming. Like, y'all literally abandoned me when really y'all thought that I was dead and gone.
Yep.
That said, should they have at least tried? Sure. But they really did think
She
that
was
she was
gone.
gone. So,
I mean, and it's justified because Catra even kept that secret from Hordak.
yeah.
Like, Hordak didn't even know that Entrapta still existed. So how can we expect the rebellion to realize that Entrapta is
No,
just.
no, no. He knew. No, you're getting. There's two different. So, when Entrapta first went
Oh,
missing,
oh
and
yeah, yeah.
then, yeah.
True,
Yeah.
true. But either way, it's just like Scorpia kind of coming through as that like middle ground, as that, I'm going to do better for myself because I deserve better.
Mm.
I'm going to do better for the people around me because they deserve better was like a real big deal. Um, and it meant a lot when everything else is falling apart. When Catcher doesn't have anyone, like Entrapta kind of has people but doesn't realize it. And then you got our trio of Bo, Glimmer, and Adora just kind of falling apart because they don't know how to trust each other as much anymore with all the changes that are going on. And it's also that thing that happens too, like you said, like going back to like puberty and growing up. Um, Glimmer's queen now. Like Glimmer is grieving. Like I feel like we had a raising Dion moment for a second in the show. Because Glimmer is like, I expect to have to deal with this. Like this is not where I thought my life would be right now,
But in a
and
lot
I'm
of
a
ways,
kid.
it's different because, and you said this, she's queen. Like you only become queen because
Somebody died. Your
someone's
parent died.
either has stepped down or has died. And in
Yeah.
this case, it's because her mother has died. And at this point, we think her father is also lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's literally alone, and they have to look into the archives to figure out how do you even do a coronation. Like the
Yeah.
fact that they don't even know what this coronation should look like because no one thought that this would happen means that she has to negotiate this moment alone in terms of thinking about the knowledge around it and also thinking about, I guess, the um I don't know, like the vulnerability, how like vulnerable it makes you, and how scared you can be, and taking on these new roles and responsibility, and how that's a lot different if you have someone who's gone through it before. Even though her aunt is there, it's not the same. And so she really,
Shout out Sandra Oh.
yeah. So she really has no one to be like, hey, I know this is scary. My coronation went this way. I'm gonna walk you through it. It's gonna be okay. Everyone's just sort of speculating what should happen, and at the same time, they're tiptoeing around the fact that her mother has died. So no one is
Mm-hmm.
just saying, hey, let's sit down and just be real about the fact that your mother died, or that we all think that your mother is dead, and so, or at least lost, and so therefore you're going through something right now, and we all can't just pretend that that's not happening. And I think for Glimmer, she was like, can we slow down? Everyone is doing everything around me, but no one is willing to face the fact that I too have no one.
Yeah.
And even though y'all are my friends and I think of y'all as family, that's different from my mom. And so, can we just all recognize that I had this relationship with someone that's different from these relationships that I just lost? And that somehow, some way, I have to figure out how to recalibrate my life around that. And so, I think like that moment, just to interject that into what you were saying, because I think it's important to sort of distinguish that from Raising Dion, which is just, we don't need to go back into that one. If you want to hear about what we have to say about Raising Dion, you can
Episode
go
1.
back to episode 1 and hear all the wonderful things we have to say about it.
True. So I don't disagree with anything you said, because that was where like our main conflict starts with her and Bo and Adora this season, because Adora straight up was like, I just thought you didn't want to talk about it. And she was like, why the hell would I not want to talk about it? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, and so that moment is when like they have like, you know, first like reconnection after all the things that happened in the previous season, but then it's still just not quite enough to keep them going. And I think a lot of that, and I guess the reason I kind of thought raising Dion a little bit was the fact that you also have Glimmer not just taking on more responsibilities, but she literally gets more power. Like
Mm-hmm.
her powers increase because now she's like, I have to connect to
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, the Moonstone all the way, which I did not want to do because it reminds me that my mom is gone, because we used to share this power with each other, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
big deal in of itself. But then once she gets it, she gets a little reckless, and so you understand why Adora is like, whoa, 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 just like you told us to slow down, you need to slow down too, homie, because now you're like, ooh, I'm more powerful, like let me do all these things, and then on top of that, let me and see, I'm gonna say I do think that her working with Shadow Weaver as an ally was not a terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it was a little reckless given that she hasn't really grasped all how much her powers had expanded
Mm-hmm.
before she started being like, now I'm going to start practicing magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that was a potentially very dangerous kind of thing. It just kind of felt like that. I don't really care what's going to happen to nobody. I'm strong now. I'm gonna fix things because I care so much
Mm-hmm.
that I need to be the one to take care of this. And it kind of reminds me of like Raising Dion's little kid mind, where he's like, I gotta save the animals, and and like suddenly I know through my powers, even though I don't really, and I'm often get people hurt or do things at like the wrong timing. And I think Glimmer had some moments where it was kind of like, you really didn't need to like do that right now, and it's kind of what leads to her also being so, what, like that moment where she's like, I have to be the one to save the world by myself.
Well,
Like,
again, I guess I don't see the parallel only because I think we would have seen a different Glimmer if she had someone she trusted in running her ideas by, and if I think the flip side of that is Adora. So Adora is also doing this thing
yes,
where she's like, now I understand, or quote unquote, think I understand. I don't know why I quote unquote is that, but now I think I understand how my powers work as She-Ra. So,
sure she does.
so I know everything too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna listen to you, Glimmer, because I know how to fight this. I know what's best for us. You don't know what's best. Stop giving me these ideas. All your ideas are rash and they're not helping. So stop. And so I think that's where all this like like talking past each other and through these
Mm-hmm.
ideas, that if they were to sit down and be like, cool, we are both very powerful women,
Women. Yep.
let's talk about how we can save our people. Instead, it becomes, I have powers, I have powers, I know best, I know best, and there can only be one champion, right? They're
Yeah.
thinking about it in that whole like champion mindset. And that's the opposite of what made them strong in the previous seasons because they
Mm-hmm.
worked as a team. And again, it could be because of this like commentary on like puberty and growing up and figuring out how to navigate relations as everyone in a friend group is changing, or or it could be about, in a lot of ways, our mindset as people, particularly in the United States, when we think about conflict as always having a champion versus conflict being something that we need to negotiate as a society to make our like civilization better, or like our we'll say civilization better, or like our living conditions better, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why it's also important that Glimmer and
Adora.
no,
Oh.
Glimmer and the folks in Bright Moon and even Scorpia don't necessarily want to decimate the horde. They just want to stop them from spreading, and they want to reverse what they did.
Mm-hmm.
Like they want to heal the planet. Like we don't need to kill
Okay.
everybody. We don't need to kill everybody in order to win, right? We don't need a total victory in order to be victorious,
Mm.
because this isn't about wiping everything out. It's about healing what is hurt. And I think that that's one of the things coming into season 5 I'll be interested in, is how do they heal all the hurt, because everything, like you said, is off balance, it's kind of cracked, it's kind of askew. And maybe balance isn't necessarily the word. And maybe what the show is showing us is that when things can be just as tumultuous in balance
Mm.
as it is out of balance. So what exactly are you looking for when trying to create a new sense of what it is to like exist with people who have different senses of like what living should be like?
I mean, it's kind of like being a person of color in America. Like this whole concept of like, we always talk about the reason why white supremacists get so scared and angry because they're like, you're gonna do to us what we did to you. But really, it's like, no, we're just trying to find a way to create a world where, that hurt, that harm is healed, um, but everyone still gets to be happy. But we can't even agree what that looks like yet on our side, let alone try to explain that to you when you already hate us just for who we are,
Mm.
right? And when you're already doing things just to prove yourselves and prove your worth and your superiority,
Mm.
because that's all Hordak is doing.
Yeah.
That's literally all he's doing. Like
Yeah.
he's a clone of a greater power, and he's trying to prove that he is worthy of being loved by that greater power,
Mm.
and that he is a good example of the horde,
Mm.
and that he should be loved and worthy, and by demonstrating his superiority and his authority over Eternia or Etheria, like that's going to prove that he's not defective, that he's not lesser than,
Mm.
and it's not, and he's basically projecting like onto them what really he's feeling inside. And like that's a lot of the things that we deal with, like with race relations and with gender and all these other identities in the real world. um and it's true. I think that's actually a very good point, though, about how it's like, even in, quote unquote balance, it's like no one really knows what balance is supposed to look like.
Mm.
Um, and that's a big part of the series, also. Going back just a step, because I realized there's another parallel with a set of secondary characters. So just like there's the whole Lonnie, Kyle, Rogelio thing in the Fright Zone, you also got, um, was it Spinnerella and Natasa, who are dating. They so cute. They're the one set definite queer couple in this show that
They're
we
us.
have. They're us. They're very competitive, and they're fighting to take out bots from the horde. And Spinnerella keeps being like, "We're not actually fighting," and Natasha's like, "Oh hell yes we are. This is a competition, bitch." And later on, you realize Spinnerella actually was competing, even though she was trying to pretend like she wasn't. But she gets hurt in the process. Like she's, does a big grand gesture to take out a bot and then gets wiped out for a second herself. but Natasha comes back and is like, "You a fool, but I love you, and I'll concede the fact that you won this round, right?" But it's still that idea of like, you got powers, I got powers, we love each other, and we want to be really close, but we're just fighting and bickering because like we have two different views of how this should go down, and because we want to be the victor because we're being competitive. But in the end, they're like, "But we love each other, and that's the most important part." So, even though I'm mad I lost, I'm also happy that you're okay and you're alive, and we still get to be with each other and love each other.
Yeah.
And that's what you want for Glimmer and Adora. It's really what you want for the two of them. Like, and it's so hard right now because they're just doing so much growing and they don't know how to grow with each other. They only know how to kind of deal with their independent part. And it makes sense a lot too with Adora, because Adora, going back to Catra and the Fright Zone, this all is still extra new, or it's really due to both of them, really, to Glimmer and Adora, because Glimmer didn't have any friends before Adora and Bo. But she understands the concept of friendship on some level. And the same thing with Adora. Adora, grew up in the Fright Zone, realized that they're all evil, realized that she was different from them, and learns what friendship should be. And so she's like, why can't this just be easy? And so that's why there's a really great moment with Bo, when he was like, friendship isn't easy. Like, friendship, he says it to like Entrapta, like, it's something that you have to work at. Like, it doesn't just happen. But because friendship is so new to all of these characters, like, they don't really know that yet. It's also part of the problem. Like, they're realizing it, but now they're like, okay, if there is work, what kind of work needs to be done? Because Adora is clearly like, I'm willing to put in some work, but I don't understand what you actually need. And Glimmer is just kind of like, I want to put in some work, but I really need to figure out what's going on with myself because my mom is gone. And it's a little wild. It got deep this season.
Yeah, it did. And honestly, I think that's a really good note to end on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have not watched She-Ra and you still sat through this whole thing, you should really watch it. It's not very long. Even if you're watching all 4 seasons, you can catch up real quick. Feel free to pause throughout this to go and try to find our references, especially in season 4, which just finished. We just finished watching this week. Just came out this week. Binge that shit real quick. Yeah, it's a real good place. It's also kind of a good filler between Steven Universe movie and Steven Universe future. That final season / spinoff that's coming up, to be able to have that sort of feel of like teamwork and like personal growth and some song, because they threw some singing in this season to She-Ra. Like, I really feel like they spent a lot of time watching Steven Universe in between like writing and drawing stuff for this show, but that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, we have a new logo now.
Yeah,
Hope
we
you
have a
like
new
it.
logo now. Hope you enjoy it. You can catch it on our Instagram at She's Gotta Watch It. It's also on Twitter at
She
She
gotta
Gotta
watch.
Watch. Yeah, and our website is also up, so check out our website where you can find the archive for all of our episodes if you don't have Spotify yet, because we're not approved on all platforms yet. And we also have some blog posts up there that include some commentary that we weren't able to put into the podcast, and that commentary is usually available by Friday after the episode released. So yeah, that's about it. Do you want to do an outro song? You have anything else you want to say?
We're on the edge of greatness on your podcast tonight. She's gotta watch it. We're gonna take flight. This is a bad parody. Dun, 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 dun. She-Ra, She-Ra.